Welcome to Dialogue Out Loud. I'm Margaret Olsen Hemming, the art editor of Dialogue, a Journal of Mormon Thought. In this episode, I sit down with Nicole Woodbury and Nnamdi Okonkwo, the two artists featured in the summer issue of the journal. Nnamdi was delayed in joining the call, so you'll first hear a conversation with just Nicole, and about 15 minutes in, Nnamdi will join the conversation as well. Enjoy the episode. Nicole, welcome to Dialogue Out Loud. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Nicole, I think your art is a little bit unusual for the Mormon art world, and particularly for art that has been featured in Dialogue. So for those who have not yet seen it, which you should absolutely go to the website and look through the issue with Nicole's art inside. Can you tell us a little bit about it and sort of help listeners understand what your art is about?
Yeah, so on my website, there's a little blurb about sort of the purpose behind sort of all of my artwork. So I like to try and capture that sense of awe that I feel in nature. And I try to blend the beauty of mathematics and scientific elements with a creative expression, and I use organic patterns to express that. And the basic universal truth that I'm trying to express is that we are purposefully and powerfully made, and that the care used to design the heavens and the earth was used to design each of us. And so for me, when I go out in nature, I look at the rocks and the geology and the patterns in there, and I see a gospel principle. And so I was out, for example, I was out in Moab, and I was looking at the striation of the rock, and it's so clear because in other parts of the world, that striation is covered up by vegetation. And so seeing that, I mean, obviously in other parts of the world, it's not, but so you can see the strata, right? And the words to the scripture, line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little, came to my mind. And I thought, okay, I got to make some work about this. And so I created these forms that are made from marbled clay. And the way you marble clay is by layering colored clay on top of each other, line upon line. And then I took that clay and I build with it. And I build these shapes that are called gyroids. And they're shapes with infinite possibility. And so to me, that meant, I guess, that, reference the way that we as humans learn, and then we take what we learn and we build a life for ourselves of infinite possibilities. And so that's sort of one from geology. And then I have another piece and that one's called Line Upon Line. And then I have another piece that was in the International Church Art Show, and the church actually bought that piece. And it's called Within the Marrow of Our Bones. And it is a sculpture that is a carving of bone marrow. And in it, there are some cracks as well. And and then I build the cracks with gold using a kintsugi method. And so really fascinating is bone marrow to me. So the scientific thing. And I saw an image of just bone marrow, and I've taken some anatomy classes and, seen it. And it's just a really, really cool shape. I was like, I just want to build with this. And then as I was building with it, I realized what bone marrow is made out of is, how it's composed are two opposing cells. You have the cells that are building called osteoblasts, and then you have the cells that are destroying called osteoclasts. And they each balance each other to create this bone marrow, which is kind of this amazing structure that ounce for ounce is stronger than steel. And it's this amazing structure that we have in our bones that allows us to walk and allows us to move, because if we did have bones made of steel, we wouldn't be able to move because we'd be too heavy. And so it's just this power in having these opposing forces. Mm-hmm. And there's this necessity of opposition. Mm-hmm. And so the scripture of that there's opposition in all things came to my mind as I was thinking about bone marrow. And so a lot of times I feel like there's so many things that manifest teachings of God that I believe in that are principles that I've learned through being a member of the church. And so, yeah. And then there's these other pieces that I make called thread pieces, and those reference neurology and sort of like this idea of basically, I'm going to pronounce his name wrong. He's a philosopher, and one of the things he says is, okay, let me see what his name is. Jose Ortega y Gasset. And he says, tell me what you pay attention to, and I will tell you who you are. And to me, I just thinking of social media and thinking of, like all the algorithms and all the things that influence us. And then we're influencing the algorithm, and then it shows us what we're paying attention to is kind of a fascinating concept of like, whatever, like the idea of what you feed will grow, and like different concepts of the mind. And so these thread pieces, and there's one right here, these thread pieces sort of reference that idea of like plot tests and sort of like, what do you see in this image? Like, what do you feel like this image represents? And so, so that's sort of the different series of things that I've been working on.
I love that. I know many scientists who are making connections between their faith and science. And I know many believers who are pulling in science to better understand their faith. But I love that you're adding a third leg of art here, and you're taking these two things that are important to you and that inspire you, that many people see as incompatible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then adding further complexity by making it, something that you look at or some kind of visual meaning.
Yeah. I think that in art, symbolism is really important, right? In conveying ideas. And I guess for me, I wanted to connect modern symbols. And like ancient symbols are awesome, and I use those too. A pomegranate is representative of royalty and Christ, and so that's a symbol of a pomegranate. But it back in the day in ancient times, you couldn't really see microscopic things. You didn't know what neurons looked like, and so I thought, like, we live in a time where you can really, you can see microscopic bone marrow cells doing their job. You know what they're doing. And that's something I learned in high school, was what osteoblasts and osteoclasts were. That's like a basic thing. So it's kind of interesting because we have this educated populace with these new symbols that we can use to represent things.
Yeah.
And we have a scientifically mined society. And so using that to communicate gospel truths and universal truths is something I'm interested in.
Okay, we have Nnamdi Okonkwo, who is joining our conversation. Thanks for being here at Dialogue Out Loud.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So I would love to have each of you introduce yourselves and share a little bit about your personal background and how you became an artist. Nnamdi, would you go first?
Okay, sure. So, like you mentioned, my name is Nnamdi Okonkwo, and originally I'm from Nigeria. That's where I was born. I came to this country, America, in 1989, about 35 years ago. I was actually recruited to play basketball. That's how that was my passport to America. But I've always wanted to be an artist, and I had the opportunity to study art while playing basketball, and I graduated and got married. My wife is from Idaho, and we lived a little bit in Idaho, lived a little bit in Utah, and we live now in Georgia.
So how did you move from basketball to sculpture?
It actually was art first. Then I realized that basketball was going to be my ticket to America because I wanted to come to America. Okay. So I started to de-emphasize the art a little bit and put all my eggs in the basket of, that's funny, put all my eggs in the basket of basketball, and it so happened that God was good to me, answered my prayers, and BYU-Hawaii actually recruited me. And when I got there, once I started playing, I just knew that art was what I felt I was born to do. There wasn't anything else that kind of tickled my fancy, like they say. So that's kind of how I got into art. So I like to say that I don't like saying that I was always an artist, because I don't even feel like I'm an artist now. I'm still trying to be an artist, but I've always had a love, a unique kind of love for the arts, and have always wanted to pursue it. And like I said, I had the opportunity to do so at BYU-Hawaii, and then from there so I played basketball there. When I was done, I went to BYU-Provo and did a master's degree with emphasis in sculpture. And I had great teachers in Hawaii, especially. I had great teachers in Utah too. But it was in Hawaii that I actually met the people that sort of helped to increase that conviction that I was supposed to be an artist, and I'll always be grateful for them. And so that's kind of how it happened.
That's a great story. Can you tell us a little bit about your sculptures for people who have not seen them yet? And just, this is a side note that Daniel will edit out. He's gonna put images on so they'll see them. But yeah, just so you know. Yeah,
because I was gonna say the best thing to do is not to tell them, is to just to show them where to find them to look.
yeah, we'll do that too.
Anyway, so the medium that I have used, that I still use, although I'm branching out a little bit, but the medium, I'm a sculptor, and the medium that I've always loved is the medium of bronze. And I like bronze because bronze is everlasting. I like the idea of something, a material that will endure forever. You see, I'm the kind of person that if I'm going to be doing anything, I might as well do it with all of me. So if I'm putting myself in what I'm doing, I would like to know that it's going to last for a long, long time. If not, it's going to feel like it's a waste of my time. Not just time, because that's not all I put in it's a waste of my life. Yeah. So my work is figurative, and right now, it's almost like there's an emphasis on female figures, and my forms are rather large, and you see, I don't want to, it's almost like I don't want to say more than I'm supposed to say, you know what I mean? Yeah, so if I'm going off a tangent, or if you want to cut me off and ask me a more pointed question, you know what I mean? Please do.
Great. No, tell us.
Yeah. So like I said, my work is kind of a stylized, figurative work. I like to be expressive in my work. What I want to convey to the audience is really more important to me than what my eye sees. I like to think that my work is sort of like a portrait of a soul. Each time I sit down, what I'm trying to do is to capture, the portrait of a being, of a human being. So the forms are large because I sort of see the figure as an edifice. And since I'm after the spirit, the outward appearance as it appears in real life is really not important to me. So I want to create a house for this spirit. And the house has to be opulent. It has to be big. It has to be extravagant. It has to be big. It has to be large. It has to be larger than life, because that's kind of what I see in my mind's eyes, and I see it in everyone that I meet. You see what I mean? Yeah. So that's kind of that's a little bit of a nutshell what I try to do.
So the two of you have very different kinds of art, but
Yes.
I actually put you together because I see an underlying, not really underlying, a major theme that runs through both of your work and your sculpture,
Yeah.
sort of celebrating something in the natural world or in the human form.
Spirit.
Yeah. So in your case, you do these figurative sculptures. Nicole, in your case, you have these very abstract figures that look, very different. But with both of you, I see you doing this work that is sort of meant to, at least to what I see as the viewer, is trying to convey like this abundance of what you are experiencing in the world. Does that resonate at all?
Yeah, I can see that. There's a lot of expression that goes into it. I think for me at least, I was a musician all growing up, and my parents thought that I would go into music. And so with my art, I was really drawn to abstract art because of the rhythm of it, because I could express a rhythm and I didn't have to be figuratively accurate with stuff, even though I've done figuratively accurate things, but I loved the expression that I could do and sort of convey the patterns and the movement of it. And I see a lot of movement in Nnamdi's work as well, expressively, but also I think that beautiful, I feel like he's expressing this beautiful, not to put words in his mouth, but he's expressing this beautiful idea that we are all spiritual beings having a physical experience. And he's like, your spirit is larger than this life, and you are more than this life, and I think that's a really important concept as well, to convey. It's really beautiful.
Well, Nicole, that's beautiful. I'm like, why can't I talk like that?
Yeah.
That's really beautiful.
Other people's art than I do.
See, I've always been an emotional kind of person, not very logical, so not very analytical, so it's hard for me sometimes to put into words what I'm trying to do, because I feel it more than I think it. I even feel it more than I know it. In fact, I don't know it. One of the things that I enjoy doing is going to the studio and not really knowing what I'm going to do, what is going to happen, and the older I get, the more I abandon the notion of trying to do something that look like something, because I feel like you and I, every artist can become an instrument, in the hands of, if you're spiritual, if you're religious, like I am, and I think you are too, you want to be an instrument in the hands of God, in the hands of something that is bigger than you, because what you want to do is going to be bigger than you, or else why do it? If all I'm going to do is going to be something that Nnamdi can do, then it loses every kind of excitement for me. The reason that I say when I go to the studio is that I always have that faith that maybe I can do something that is greater than me. You see, because because I know that I'm a common person. I know I'm common. you know what I mean? Yeah. So I really like how you expressed everything you expressed.
So I would love to hear from both of you about you've spoken a little bit about how your faith intersects with your art. Can you speak a little bit more about that, and also if you feel like your work connects to broader Mormon studies conversations right now, or maybe that's not important to you, and you're sort of working independently from that. But tell me about your faith in your art.
Who do you want to go first?
Either
Nicole.
whoever feels.
I guess it's only fair you went first last time. All right, what's the question again? Okay. So how does my work intersect with my faith?
Yeah, or your relationship to the church, or to conversations that you see happening in the broader Mormon community.
Well, so I think personally with my own personal art, I tend to try to emphasize truths that I see manifesting in nature, and express those. So, and a lot of those truths that I see come from my background in the LDS community, and being LDS and studying the scriptures, and just sort of generally believing that all things manifest, that there is a God, and being able to have those eyes to see that. And so I just sort of, I love going out in nature. I love, exploring different cultures. And I think that definitely has influenced me in creating the work that I do. But as far as like the broader, I guess the broader rhythm of what's going on in the Mormon art community, I feel like there's so much diversity now that's sort of like being expressed in so many different mediums, which makes me so happy. Because even when I was in art school, I was in the sculpture major, and I was the only girl when I was there. And so it was me and then like 4 other guys in the sculpture major. And before me, there had been women, but I was kind of like, okay, cool. I'm like in the boys class kind of. And so that was definitely like a different experience. And I think that it sort of opened my eyes as to like more of like the contemporary art is happening from like the sculpture major. And so I remember talking with one of my other associates, my co-student, and he was saying, there's more than one way to bear your testimony, and there's so many different beautiful mediums, and a lot of them, like in the classical tradition, a lot of times from the classical tradition, they'll say, well, this is the only way to express this, and this is the true way, kind of. And we were kind of like, well, the way I express is going to connect with someone who is like me, and I'm going to be able to bear my testimony to that person because they're connecting with it in the way that they connect, and not everyone connects the same way. And so I think it's really important to have that diversity so that people can connect with God and connect with you, and have like different angles that you can feel that love from God. And that's one of the beautiful things that I loved about galleries. Art galleries are this beautiful sacred space. It's one of the few sacred spaces in the world, and it's a secular space. And so it's like, oh, if I'm going to touch someone, it's going to be in a place of reverence where they can see art in a place of reverence. And that's what I loved about art galleries, is like they're they're kind of places of reverence where there's a quietness to them, and all the walls are white, and I thought, this is sort of a place where people can maybe feel the spirit because there's quiet. And maybe with my work, I can convey that emotion and allow the spirit to, be felt through my work. And so, anyway, I can't remember where I was going with that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's kind of how I connect, I guess, with the art community. Yeah.
Great. Nnamdi, what are your thoughts?
Nicole has said everything. And she said it really nice, No, yeah, it's really amazing the insight that you have. I really like it, because you're saying things and I'm like, that's what I'm thinking, what you're saying it so well. I'm pretty selfish when it comes to my art. What anybody else thinks, including the church or people that go to church, I don't care about. You know what I mean? I have to come out and say it that way, and I think that's how it should be. Because, see, I will go beyond the church to go to God. You see what I mean? Because my work, like Nicole says, is about the idea that there is a God. And it is what I feel. It isn't contrived, So I'm not sitting down and saying, okay, I'm going to do my next sculpture so that someone sees it and they can see evidence of the Spirit of God in man, or evidence of the fact that the human spirit is unconquerable, that no matter what you're going through, that there's that spirit in you that can transcend obstacles, and I think it's much more important, in as much as I consider myself a very good, loyal member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I think I will be selling myself short if I get overly carried away by trying to get involved in conversations that exist right now in the, like you're saying, the broader LDS community. There are people that are more equipped to do that than me. For myself, I consider that I have a talent with which, to touch people that are in the church and outside the church. In fact, it seems even more important to me, like Nicole is saying, if I can touch someone who is outside the church, because perhaps the only contact with the Spirit that person may have will be through Nicole's work or through my work. So it is that person that I'm more interested in rather than what is going on, in the LDS community. And it's only because I don't feel like it's boring to me. And it's and I can express it very well. It just feels too limiting to me. It just feels too limiting. I don't want to say stuff that I don't want to say stuff that I'll be calling you and say, please don't, cut that out, but I feel that those conversations are really, really very important. But to be honest with you, it always turns me off when I see artists that I may be wrong, they may be right. I'm just telling you how I respond to it. I'm probably wrong, but it turns me off when I see artists that are consumed by a topic that is controversial in the church or, things like that. It just turns me off because I feel like, we should transcend that and we should be our own church, so to speak. The artist should be a church too. Not in the same way as just as the church is established, to bring men to God. I, as an artist, the aim is for me to be established to also bring men to God. So that's kind of how I feel. I don't feel like I have to go. I don't feel like I have to, what's the word? I feel like I have to be independent of the church, Yeah.
That is really well said. I think that's not true.
So what I'm hearing you say is that your faith works through you, but it's not the conversation that you're having as you're creating your work.
Yeah. I'm not trying to get anybody in the church to feel one way or the other. You see what I mean? Yeah, I'm trying to do what I feel that God, and perhaps the people that are engaged in those conversations, perhaps they are feeling God telling them to do what they are doing. So I'm not in any way, meaning to condemn, that approach. I'm just trying to be honest with how my personal views are different.
Yeah.
They're for me, again, and I feel like I need to make this clear. There is no dividing line between, my life as an artist and my life as an artist. Both of them are the same. They all fit underneath one umbrella. There's no dividing line. What I do as a member of the church ought to make me a better artist. And what I do as an artist ought to make me a better member of the church. Because we are one, it's the same. It's me, it's me. Yeah.
That's so true. That's right. Yeah, no, I think it makes perfect sense. And I say that to myself about being a mother. Like hopefully me being a mother helps me be a better artist. And me being an artist helps me be a better mother.
It's true.
The two are the same. I can't divide myself in a million different.
No. Because when it comes down to it, we hope that it is the Spirit of God that will work through us and in us, to create whatever we are hoping to create, right?
Right.
So if it is the Spirit of God working in us, then, we don't have to partition, the things we do to fit into certain, into different cubicles, if I may use that word. Yeah, so we have to just let God shine through us, and whatsoever happens, becomes the statement that he wants to make through us.
That's beautiful. Well, I am so excited to have you both in this issue of Dialogue and have people see your work. Can you tell listeners where people might find you, what other projects you're working on? Where would people run into your work?
Nnamdi, it's your turn.
All right. Okay. I mean, these, it used to be that every artist has a website or tries to have a website, and I still have a website. And Nicole, I think I went to your website today, but I went somewhere and I saw your work, and they are wonderful. Your work is wonderful, but but it could be on social media that I saw it. I can't remember, so I think
your work too.
Well, thank you. So it's probably easiest. Someone can go to my website, and it's my name, Nnamdi, Nnamdi. And I'm sure you're gonna have it in writing, NamdiArt.com, NamdiArt.com. But I'm also on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook and a few other social media. And I'm just working, selling some work through the galleries, and presently, I'm trying to sort of concentrate on doing large outdoor projects. They're very hard to come by.
And for listeners to know, like, you're talking really large. Like, can you talk about how, like, the dimensions that you're working?
Yeah. I mean, I like to say the bigger the better. I've done work that measures the biggest work that I've done, incidentally, is in China, and it's like 10 feet by 15 feet wide, but I like to do stuff like that, because I feel like if you have something that you want to show the world, so to speak, you want to show it to as many people as possible, so it's always a great opportunity when I get to do something. The only thing I lament is the fact that I'm not as good as I want to be. that is, but I always tell myself, son, be patient, because, you're going to get better, and because, and let me say this real quick, as an artist, I feel that we are embodiments of Jesus Christ, in the sense that Jesus Christ came so that good can come into the world, and I feel like our calling is to be agents of that good, to make sure that what we are doing, there have been points in my life where I had sat down and thought about which direction that I could go with my work. There were things that were quite popular. There were things that I could have done. But I thought to myself, this wouldn't be an expression of that. I wouldn't be that little Jesus that I'm hoping to be, if I do those things, because I have a conviction that the way of God, Jesus' way, is the best way. So if I have that conviction, and this conviction existed in my mind even before I became a member of the church, so the best work I can do ought to be that work that reflects the goodness of God. As well. And I haven't arrived, but I'm still working on getting there,
You do a beautiful job. Your work's incredible. Thank you. Nicole, what about you?
Well, I guess just to add to what Nnamdi said, it's definitely like a process to perfect your technique and to, figure that out. But I think ultimately, for me, I also went into art because as a musician, you learn a piece, you play it, and then it's over, and you forget it. You can read the music again, but you forget it and it's gone, and you can't play it anymore, and you don't have anything really to show for it. All that hard work, and so that's also what drew me to art, was because there's more permanence to it, and you can years later be like, oh, I made that 10 years ago. It's still there, it still exists, and to add your efforts to something that's going to have more longevity is important, I think. And then in the end, I believe in the principle that what you feed will grow. And so for me, I don't necessarily want to feed into the controversy, because I believe that that's what will grow. And I want to feed into something that's going to be uplifting, that's going to add and spread light into the world. And so a lot of times when there is a controversial thing that I really care about, like, I care about women's voices, and I actually am one of the organizers for the Certain Women Art Show, and I love doing that, and we're starting our new project for 2024, and we're going to be in the J. Kirk Richards Gallery this next time, and the theme for it is in the measure of her creation, or the measure of her creation, fulfilling the measure of her creation. And so I wanted it to be uplifting. We could have done a lot of things that were like more focusing on the negative aspects, but I think that if you focus on what it is you want in life, then that's what you will get. If you focus on the things you don't want in life, then that's what you're going to get. And so I think a lot of times, those are the discussions we have when we're setting out doing a theme, and with all of the other artists, it's this collaborative project that we do is ultimately we want to be uplifting. We want to empower women to believe that they are children of God, that they are equals, that they are powerful. And I think that a lot of women don't feel that way about themselves. And so I think it's important for them to feel that way about themselves and realize their potential.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, those are some things that.
Thank you. Can you tell us where people can find your works?
So let's see. Yeah, right now it's all online. And then in September, I'm going to be featured on Artful on BYU TV. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure what episode or anything, but so that'll be coming up soon. And then in the Certain Women show in 2024 is what I'm working on next. And then I'll be I think I'm going to be in a show in Written Vision sometime in the fall. But yeah, anyway, so, and then online on my website, it would be awesome to get some public art out there. That would be
No, it would be nice. Yeah.
Oh, that's hard to get into, but it's, that would be
so difficult, so difficult.
Yeah.
So difficult. But, just like everything we do, I feel like, and I think that's why it's really important to me to always remember that I'm representing someone bigger than me, and if I do my very best today, he knows your desires. He knows my desires. Perhaps some of the desires we have are foolish, I know for sure I have foolish desires, but if my desires are righteous, I feel that it's only going to be a matter of time if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do before, I get to where I hope that I'm going to get. But it does take time. From my own experience in life, and this is for just it's kind of another topic, but, you're an artist, I'm an artist. I've learned so much listening to what you're saying. And so it's good when artists come together to share ideas. But what I've learned is that truly, that from my art, I've come to really gain a greater testimony that there's a God,
Absolutely.
And that testimony came not when the going was easy or the times that the going was easy. The testimony came even stronger. The testimony was more intense, when the going was really, really difficult, Yeah, so I know through my art that there's a God, and, there's nothing anyone will do in church to squeeze me out because I didn't get really my testimony, in church. I gained it through something very personal. And, so Nicole, this is kind of by way of encouragement, and as I encourage you, I encourage myself too, because the going for an artist, usually it's not easy, but, in the end, it's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm not an artist, but I needed to hear that message too. So thanks. Thank you. Nnamdi Okonkwo and Nicole Woodbury, thank you so much for sharing your work with Dialogue and for being here this evening on Dialogue Out Loud. Really appreciated talking with both of you.
Thanks for having us.
You guys are great. Thank you. And God bless both of you.
Thank you.
Nicole, nice to meet you.
You too. It was a pleasure.
I'm going to take a risk in this ad by saying the word holiness right here in the very first sentence. That's risky because the word can trigger all kinds of positive or negative feelings. Sometimes I'm afraid to call something holy because it makes things feel sort of unrelatable or like disconnected from everyday life. And really, that's too bad because the word's actually related to wholeness and helpfulness, which suggests that maybe we can learn to find holiness in places we never really thought to look before. I'm talking about holiness like a fire. It can warm, but it can also burn. You might get smoke in your eyes, but the flickering flames are also really beautiful. If this kind of holiness sounds appealing, you should check out Fireside with Blair Hodges. It's a podcast featuring writers, artists, and activists who can help expand your concept of holiness to include the gritty, earthy stuff of everyday life. Come fan the flames of your curiosity at Fireside with Blair Hodges, part of the Dialogue Podcast Network, available at firesidepod.org and wherever you get your podcasts.
Dialogue Podcast Network.